The Hard Truth, Season 9 with Kweku Bedu-Addo, proudly brought to you by EcoBank.
Good evening and welcome to the 9th season of The Hard Truth, your favorite current affairs program which promises to probe into the hot waters of key national issues. And I promise more intense, informative and revealing interviews with more excitement promised by my guest. Tonight we have a very prominent individual within the Ghanaian banking sector who has had a proven excellent record not only in Ghana but across Africa. Their mission, they say, is to be a world-class shared service center for the Standard Chartered Group. Mr. Kweku Bedu-Addo, the young, dynamic, and enterprising Chief Executive Officer of the Standard Chartered Bank of Ghana and the very first Ghanaian to hold this prestigious role. He has had far-reaching experience within the banking sector as well as several years serving within Standard Chartered Bank Zambia, Singapore, Cote d'Ivoire, Gambia, and Sierra Leone. We will delve into his life as a banker, work ethics, motivation, and also get some insight from him on the banking sector in Ghana. Now, do you think he has the muscle to offer more than he already has? We would definitely find out in our brief yet probing talk with him. My name is Nana Akosua Kunedu, and this is Season 9 of The Hard Truth. You're watching The Hard Truth, and Group CEO or Chief Executive, no, he's not a Group CEO, he's the Chief Executive Officer of Standard Chartered Bank Ghana, and with more additional responsibilities as to West Africa 2 cluster. So welcome to The Hard Truth.
Thank you very much.
And how are you enjoying your new role?
Oh, I just started, but yes, I'm enjoying it.
You are enjoying it. You can see from your face and from your nice suit.
Thank you.
Now, you said that 3 key elements are to success within the banking sector. That was what you said was the public sector. You worked in the public sector, and you also said that you had some very good faith. So providence meeting destiny and all that, and maybe your knowledge in general knowledge in Ghanaian settings. Why would you say this?
Well, that's for my personal journey.
Right.
That is because
I need you to tell me more about that.
Well, because everyone has a different journey and personal experience. But if you're talking about my experience, then I believe you are referring to probably an interview I granted a while back about my early experience in the public sector after university. The fact that it's a case of ambition meeting destiny. A combination of working in the public sector and private sector over time gives you a certain local knowledge and perspective that helps you to take decisions. So I think, but it takes time to get to that level of proficiency.
But is the money not factor? Because you mentioned in some interviews that people work when you work in the public sector, you get some ideas and know-how and you're able to transcend down to other businesses. But now we look at the money and we're like, no, we're not going to work there. So how was the experience like for you those days?
I think it's something that everybody has to realize globally. It's very rare for public sector job to pay more than private sector, generally, as the general norm. In a few countries, there's convergence. Certainly my experience in the public sector was no better. The pay was not that exciting.
Right.
But
you had some opportunities opportunities to land you where you are now. Now you realize that we have all veterans there in the public sector, not giving the young people the chance to, bring out their best in them and shine. From your time, working in the public sector, how was it like comparing that to now? What would you say the differences are here?
I think the challenges are the same. When I worked in the public sector, that was when Ghana was going through structural adjustment and all that.
Aren't we still going through that?
Exactly. So that's why I say the challenges remain the same. Bottom line, I think that we do have economic challenges that makes it difficult for the average person or the average household to have a a meaningful life,
Right.
Life with dignity and
I get that, but
with
what?
hope and aspiration.
Exactly.
So that's what it's all about at the end of the
So
day.
you got some opportunities perhaps we are not getting now, in our generation. What was it? How different was yours from now? Maybe your boss helped you to do something. I'm not going to say it for you, but how was that now for you?
I think what I would like the younger generation to understand is that public service is not wasted time. It may not pay, it may not fill your bank account, it may not give you the kind of money you want to do all the things we all want to do.
Right.
But it equips you with a certain level of exposure if you're really hungry for it. You generate a good network of people that you get to know. You get to see at first hand how policy is evolved. And if you're lucky, you can have an input into that policy.
No, but if we are not given the opportunity to work in the public sector as a young person, because we have old veterans there, how do we get the opportunity to
why would you have that perception? I think that surely as people retire, as natural attrition happens, they are recruiting because we did our time there. When I go there now, it's an entirely different generation that I see.
We have people who are over 60 years and then they're on contract, so a long chain of
But I
contract
think that
rights.
will be the exception more than the norm.
So what, there still lies
I still say
opportunities
that
for
young people don't check the opportunity to go and work in public service. And it's never changed. People, they'll say that ministries, no, I'm not going to go there.
Exactly.
But trust me, I've been there for almost a decade, and it's worth it.
Now, let's look at government excessive borrowing at a very high interest rate crowd in the local market. Now, the private sector is unable to access loans because of unreasonable rates, leading to the stagnation of business. What would you say this is? Why is that? Does the government really have to continue in the local market? What should the government do now?
Government everywhere in the world raises money through taxes, the taxes you and I pay, and companies pay. If it's not enough, they go to the market to borrow. Now, it's all about balance. If they do it excessively, interest rates would go up, and it will crowd out the private sector. If they don't, interest rates can stay moderate. So it's all about balance in there. But even the U.S. government borrows. So it's a question of the intensity and relative to everyone else.
Isn't it excessive, So how much is the interest rate now today? Since you're in a banking setting.
Well, every bank determines its rate independently, but if you want to know,
yes,
the benchmark, what you should ask really is what is the benchmark rate?
Right. For your bank is what I'm asking anyway, Standard Chartered Bank. So I'm asking this because as you realize that private business suffer because the government goes for the loan and then huge rates, interest rate hence. Now I go for loans and it's like, oh my goodness, I can't pay for this interest rate.
Yeah,
so my business suffers. Now, are there innovation for the private sector to use in stabilizing their businesses?
Yes, I can see the evolution of equity business in Ghana. Increasingly, we are seeing venture capital companies come in. We are seeing private equity players show interest in Africa, not just Ghana. Their capital tends to be longer term because startup businesses need long-term capital. Bank capital is often not long-term.
Right.
Okay, so I think that businesses must also get to understand finance a bit better and what we call capital structure and what should you use as debt and what should you use as equity. There's that interplay as well. But on a more systemic basis, I think that we'd all want to see the rates come down to make it easier for companies to borrow, businesses to borrow, to invest. We'd like to see rates lower so that individuals, you and I, can take money and young people starting life can borrow money to buy a house.
Kweku, the rates are high. I won't go in for a loan now because it's so outrageous. I'm not going to pay. I'm asking. You're telling us to go for people are coming in private sector and other businesses are coming in. So what? The interest rate is still staying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What can we do now as private people to get our business going? Innovative ideas. What can we do?
You can manage as well as you want to.
Right.
But that's why I was saying that you need a certain capital structure, a certain level of debt, your own equity, okay, whether it's your money or other people's money. That's the equity component, and then you need debt sometimes. So that's why I said that it's in our wider interest to get interest rates down, because when interest rates come down, it's easier for businesses to borrow. Not just that, it's easier for young people starting life to borrow, get a decent home, and pay over a lifetime.
So how would the interest rates come down then?
That's what happens.
How can the interest rates come down?
How can the interest rates?
Yes, how can it come down?
We need to see our macroeconomic environment improve. If it improves, you'll see the interest rates come down. It's happened before. Not too long ago, our interest rates were as low as 16.9%. So, and it could have gone lower.
Right. Now, government, you realize, went for a $1 billion Eurobond with an interest rate of 10.7% and decided to issue 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. I mean, that was on a bond on domestic market, but that was undersubscribed. In your estimation, was that appropriately used, going for the money to pay debt?
It's normal to want to refinance your debt if you can. If you can refinance your debt at a lower cost, why not? It's done everywhere in the world. So there's nothing wrong with that principle of refinancing debt to lower your interest payments ultimately.
But it will have some effect, huge effect on the economy. Looking at financial stability, debt's financial stability, what would that be?
It depends on what the money is used for. Okay.
But the money is not used for developmental projects, just to pay debts. I owe this person, I'm going to pay. I'm going to pay. So we are not seeing anything like development or anything, just stability.
Well, but we've been advised that it will be used to retire domestic debts.
Right.
If that happens, then exactly what you were asking me for a minute ago, that interest rates are too exorbitant. If government uses that money to reduce their holdings of, or our holdings of their debt, then domestic interest rates should fall, all things being equal. So we are waiting to see that. So it is a good thing to bring the domestic interest rates down.
So what you say,
if government refinances domestic debt, then there's less domestic debt out there, so the domestic interest rates will come down. That's what should happen.
Great. More with Kweku Bedu-Addo, CEO Standard Chartered Ghana, after the break. We'll be right back.
The Hard Truth, Season 9 with Kweku Bedu-Addo, proudly brought to you by EcoBank.
EcoBank, we see a great future, one that's full of opportunity for those who want to be the best. With over 1,000 branches of a single bank across 33 African countries, it's a future where trade can flourish without boundaries. The future is breathtaking, with enormous cross-border investments helping business and government build new infrastructure, while individuals achieve their ambitions right across Africa. The future is Pan-African, and EcoBank is the Pan-African bank.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Season 9, very first episode, and Kweku Bedu-Addo, CEO, Standard Chartered Bank Ghana, it's my guest. Kweku, now you said in August this year, I heard somewhere this year that Standard Chartered Bank will cut credits to private businesses because the economy is going through some challenges. But I'm asking, who brought these challenges, and why would you cut, credits to people like me?
Every economy goes through cycles.
Right. Okay.
So you have recession. In the West, you hear they are recession, or they are going through a boom period.
Right.
So they are what we call economic cycles. Okay. So in Ghana, what do we have at the moment? You see that the economic environment is very tough. What we term it as headwinds. The macroeconomic headwinds are tough. We've seen a lot of market volatility as well. Commodity prices have taken a tumble. It's affecting a lot of businesses. We've seen a lot of volatility on the foreign currency market since 2013. Again, that has impacted a lot of businesses. So what it means is that the environment is not very benign to grow your loan book very aggressively. So when you're facing such challenges, the normal reaction is to put on the brakes a bit.
Well, I thought banks are there to give credit to private businesses like Akosia, and maybe I'm sure you have a business yourself. So if you tell me because the environment is not conducive for you, then what happens to my business?
If I told you that I would lend you money to buy a home,
right,
and I'll charge you 30%, will you take it?
It depends. How long am I paying the loan for?
Yeah, but 30% means, think about it, it means that in every 3.5 to 4 years, you'd have paid back the principal of the house.
That's too much.
Yes, exactly.
That's a lot.
So why would we? It's a lot. It's so the risks get heightened, and don't forget that the money that the bank lends out belongs to depositors, and in a wider context, the shareholders of the bank. And so we also have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we take the right decisions for the stakeholders. So
have you?
I'm sure you wouldn't want the bank that you put your money in to be reckless about how it lends the money. It's got to be careful and make sure that this money that is going out will come back.
No, but Standard Chartered Bank, here for good, right? That's your tagline, here for good. So if you're here for good, if my business flourishes, yours flourishes too. Now I need money telling me, cutting me off. I mean, I wouldn't buy that.
The context was that the environment is more difficult, and so we'll be more careful in terms of
being careful.
Asset growth.
Maybe I was quite harsh with my words. So being careful is cutting off. You won't give anyone loans or anything anymore. That's the word to use.
People still take loans. Companies take loans.
Oh, huge. That's for the affluent.
No. You've got to be careful. I mean, that's the reality of it, because it's other people's money that they've entrusted in your hands, and there are rules around what they call prudential lending. You got to be very careful what you do out there. Look, lending money is very easy. If that was it, then
paying back is the issue.
Huh?
What's the issue? That's easy. So what? Paying back it's the issue.
Well, you got to make sure that money comes back. You got to make sure that depositors' money is safe. Right. You got to make sure that you generate sufficient return for the shareholders who own the institution.
So in which cases won't you give loans to the private man? In which case? Because you are saying that's not true. You said that because this and that. So tell me. So if I'm coming for a loan now, in what shape should my business be to get a loan from you?
Well, the most important thing they would look at would be, first of all, how do you run the business yourself? Okay. Do you really know what you're doing? Are you on top of it? Second, does the business generate sufficient cash flow to pay back the loan?
Right.
Security is secondary. The more important thing is, does the business generate sufficient cash flow to pay back the facility? Security is just a fallback, And there are people who borrow without security because their businesses are strong enough. They've generated a good track record over many years, and banks are comfortable to lend to them unsecured.
Yeah, so it's not true. If you think inside a chartered bank, is cutting up private businesses, that's so not true. Just go with the right criteria, and I'm sure you'll be given your loan.
Absolutely.
Now, but let's look at competitiveness in banking sector now. It said that, indigenous banks are suffering in Ghana against the foreign banks. What's the beef with that, indigenous against that?
Really?
Let's look at the performances, right? Yes.
I think over the years they are doing well. We begin to see indigenous banks grow and mature, and I think it's good for the economy. That every country I've been to, most countries I've been to, they have a very vibrant domestic.
But I get. But have you seen the numbers? Go to NIB, go to Fidelity, go to ADB. Have you seen the numbers against that of the big banks like yours and like EcoBank and banks like that, huge deposits, huge profitabilities. Go ask them; they will tell you.
I think they are catching up. I think I've
so
seen.
How can they? Maybe what I want to ask you, Sarah, is how can they? I mean, they are doing better. It's fine, but it's better. Okay, how can they do better? I mean, they just can't just do fine. How can they do better?
But it's a journey. It's a journey. I mean, you can't overnight compare a domestic bank to a big international bank in so many countries. Because some of the big international banks have a heritage for over 100 years. So they've been doing this for a very long time. But it is good that we're seeing Ghanaian-owned banks begin to emerge and begin to grow. And it's something that must be encouraged. We must encourage others to also come up. And over time, it will take time. It doesn't you don't get there overnight. But the important thing is you start a journey. And we see that journey has started. So that's good.
It will catch up.
Yes, hopefully.
Now, let's talk about bank penetration. You realize that penetration in banking in Ghana is less than 20%.
Yes.
How can we catch up?
I think we need to all, as Ghanaians, focus on financial literacy and financial inclusion. Just yesterday, we signed a partnership with Airtel to work with Airtel using the Airtel Money platform. And that helps us to reach the unbanked.
That's great.
To get to the last mile.
That's
because
great.
Airtel will have very wide distribution and reach within the country, including the unbanked. And so partnering with us, for example, makes it possible to get money to the unbanked and vice versa through the various supply chains across several industries. So
I'm just thinking, let's look at the general phenomenon of bank penetration. Why is that? Why don't we have, huge numbers? But you realize that on banks, it's still about 80 or more than 75%. Why is that?
I think I'm sure I haven't looked at the detailed study or anything, but just conceptually, if you think about it, it will be so many factors. The level of our economic development. I don't think people are unbanked not because they choose to be unbanked, but sometimes they don't even earn any income. Okay, some of it could be cultural, mistrust of large institutions which look sophisticated. I'd rather stay away from them. So there could be a cultural element as well.
But you realize you have some elite, they put their monies under their beds or somewhere in the house and keep it there.
It could happen. What we need to do as society is to understand some of these root causes and try to stamp it out. But more importantly, let's improve the welfare and the income distribution in the country, make it a more equitable society. And I think that the more we do that, the more we will get people to transition into the mainstream economy and be part of the modern economy.
But do you think, I get that, but do you think that we understand the principles of banking? Put your money in the bank for safety. Put your money at home, people come take it away. But still, they'll still keep the monies at home, hide it on, under the ground, keep it somewhere safe because they feel the banks aren't doing well. Do you think we understand the principles of banking in general?
Well, I talked about financial literacy. Financial literacy must go hand in hand with financial inclusion.
Let's look at the telcos and the banks now. How can they work hand in hand? I'm still looking at the banking penetration and bringing on banks there. How can we all collaborate, especially with the banks and the telcos together?
I think it's the future. It is really the future. The future, technology will play a very important part in whatever we do. So it's in our interests, mutual interest, to cooperate with each other. Because as you rightly said, they have the reach, even to the unbanked.
Right.
I may not have a bank account, but I have a phone. And if technology makes it possible to convert money into bytes and move it around on a phone, why not? We've got to embrace it and use it. And hopefully it will help us to make quantum leaps that earlier generations could not make by way of financial inclusion and financial literacy. So I think it's a positive thing.
We'll be right back.
The Hard Truth, Season 9 with Kweku Bedu-Addo, proudly brought to you by EcoBank.
Bank, we see a great future. One that's full of opportunity for those who want to be the best. With over 1,000 branches of a single bank across 33 African countries. It's a future where trade can flourish without boundaries. The future is breathtaking, with enormous cross-border investments helping business and government build new infrastructure, while individuals achieve their ambitions right across Africa. The future is Pan-African, and EcoBank is the Pan-African bank.
Welcome back to The Hard Truth, and Mr. Kweku Bedu-Addo, Chief Executive of Standard Chartered Bank Ghana, is still here. Now, sir, let me just ask you, since you love the public sector so much, would you want to get into politics someday?
I think that I've served almost a decade of my life working in the public sector as a technocrat. That was great. I'm in the private sector now. I'm having the benefit of combining both experiences, and I think that is good.
Yeah. So you would want to be in politics someday? Would you want to be the president someday?
Oh no, I'm not in retail politics. If that's what you are asking, I'm not in retail.
Would you want to be the president of Ghana someday?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Why is that?
I don't think so. I think it's a path that you've got to. If you want to be on that path, you get into a certain track and work towards that. And as you can clearly see, I'm in the private sector. I'm not in that track of doing things.
Never say never. Never say never. Finally, as a citizen, a proud citizen of this country, is our President John Dramani Mahama 3 years in office? Is he doing well, sir?
I think that's a question for Ghanaians to judge and make that decision.
So what do you think?
I don't think representing Standard Chartered, it's for me to come and make pronouncements here, because my personal view doesn't really matter in these things.
It doesn't?
No, I don't think.
But you vote every 4 years. Exactly. So I have my own views and we have yours. What would you say, being in office for 3 years? What can you advise the president? What would you tell him? If you see him now, what would you tell him?
Well, the country has a lot of challenges, and we all need to put our hands to the wheel and try to resolve those challenges for the country, so that the people don't lose hope and faith in the system, because it's the only country we have. And that's the advice I'll give any president of Ghana.
So do you think that Ghanaians are losing hope now? It's all lost here for us?
Well, I think whenever I have time to listen to the radio and try to understand people and talk to ordinary people, there could be some element of despondency and gradual erosion of hope because of the difficulties. And the difficulties have been quite challenging for even businesses. So we'd all like to see things turn around the corner and improve for everyone.
But they will get better.
For the most vulnerable in society.
But they will get better, you think?
Oh, definitely. I'm an optimist. It will get better if we all work hard at it.
Kweku, thank you so much for talking to us.
Pleasure.
Kweku Bedu-Addo, Chief Executive Officer, Standard Chartered Bank Ghana, and has additional responsibilities as Chief Executive Officer of Standard Chartered Bank West Africa Cluster 2. And that this show is proudly brought to you by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and supported by Absolute Fashion in Jawalu and GH Kitchen in Osu, and my lovely makeup done by Diva. Thanks to Reflex Images, and follow the Heart with GH pages on social media and catch a repeat on our YouTube channel. My name is Nana Akosia. Good evening.
The Hard Truth, Season 9 with Akosia Konedu. Proudly brought to you